Investigation launched. Have we misplaced the Creator's calendar? In a time when modern calendars dictate our worship rhythms, a critical investigation demands our attention. Are we honoring our Creator on days He never appointed? Long before the Roman Empire imposed its system of timekeeping, our loving Father Yahweh established a divine calendar, not in secret but visibly, under the full light of the moon. This investigation uncovers ancient coordinates given directly to Moses and Aaron on the eve of deliverance from Egypt. These weren't abstract rituals or arbitrary traditions, they were precise time markers etched into the heavens and aligned with sacred events: Passover, Sabbaths, the wilderness journey, and even the Messiah's sacrifice. Was the full moon the original new moon? Have we been counting from the wrong day all along? What follows is not just a historical study, it is a forensic examination into the blueprint of time, designed by Yahweh, nearly lost to tradition, and now resurfacing for those seeking truth before the final exodus. Welcome to the calendar investigation that may change everything you thought you knew. Our loving Father Yahweh, in the presence of the visible full moon, anchored down exact time details for Moses and Aaron on the night before Rosh Hashanah, New Year's Day in spring. Exodus January 3rd 12, lunar months and years. And declared Yahweh, you, unto Moses and unto Aaron while in the land of Egypt, commanding that the new moon, this selfsame one, is head, Rosh, of the lunar months, which is first in place as the new moon for measuring the revolution of a year, Hashanah. You shall keep and teach this to all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th of the lunar month, do the following, and you shall reserve and keep every man a lamb for each household of the father, a lamb for each house. Shemot, Exodus 12, 1, 3. The treasury of evidence throughout Scripture defines that the full moon was then and has always been the authentic and original start of our Creator's lunar months, and that night it also announced the next day as Rosh Hashanah. Passover was designed to occur consistently on the day of the dark conjunction lunar phase, in the middle of the month on the 14th day. That is the only day of any given month that a total solar eclipse can occur, and it did occur at the exact appointed time of our Messiah's death on Passover, the 14th of Abib, 1,500 years later. Treasury of evidence, the full moon announces lunar months. This restoration of his sacred lunar calendar model was vital and designed as the first test of obedience before leaving Egypt. For if Moses, Aaron, and all of Yasharal Israel were to choose a lamb on the 10th day and sacrifice it on the 14th day, according to the command of Yahweh, they must have the correct first day from which to start their count. Next, they had to disengage from the Egyptians' popular dark conjunction lunar phase, the first day after the last waning crescent was visible. This was to be a 180-degree opposite restoration from the dark conjunction lunar phase to that of the full moon. Certainly, it was no easier task then, as it is today, to change calendar models as time-measuring paradigms run deep. Yet, this will also be the first test for those living at the end of time who seek full restoration before entering the Promised Land. The Egyptians appear to have used a purely lunar calendar prior to the establishment of the solar civil calendar, in which each month began on the morning when the waning crescent moon could no longer be seen. It is no coincidence that Yahweh Elohim restored his nearly lost authentic lunar calendar model as the foundation for the following 3 months in a row. All the following successive events were measured and counted from that very night our Creator's calendar was restored, including Rosh Hashanah, New Year's Day in spring, the full new moon day. All successive full moons were ordained to determine the start of the lunar months, and the count was 1, 29 or 30 for each day of the month, recorded 349 times in Scripture. Passover, the 14th day, counted from Rosh Hashanah, full new moon day. The giving of the manna, with its unique feeding schedule, identifies the sacred seventh-day Sabbath, which is recorded 150 times in Scripture, the arrival at Mount Sinai, the instituting of the wilderness sanctuary illustrated throughout the year, the plan of redemption, the remedy for sin to be performed by the promised Messiah, entirely based upon lunar time and event. The 7 time-centric lunar-appointed feast days were restored so that all may understand that the sacrificial work of our Messiah was based entirely upon lunar time and event. Lunar-appointed feast days. Each of the daily, weekly, and monthly sacrifices was distinguished by what animal and how many, illustrating that these days cannot float by without each other. The entire 40 years in the wilderness, and unto all generations of his faithful throughout eternity. These instructions given to Moses were for the benefit of all succeeding generations. They were for those who would seek obedience to the divine commands and synchronize their soul temples to the worship rhythms of the most kadosh, holy dwelling place of Yahweh himself. Scripture narrative of Exodus 12. 1. 42, NKJV. Now Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, 2. This month new moon shall be your beginning of lunar months, it shall be the first month of the year to you. 3. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th day of this lunar month, every man shall take for himself a lamb according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. 4. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the persons. According to each man's need, you shall make your count for the lamb. 5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. 6. Now, you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it, by an equal sign between Herbim = the evenings, plural. 7. And they shall take some of the blood, and put it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the houses where they eat it. 8. Then they shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. 9. Do not eat it raw, nor boiled at all with water, but roasted in fire, its head with its legs and its entrails. 10. You shall let none of it remain until morning, and what remains of it until morning you shall burn with fire. 11. And thus you shall eat it, with a belt on your waist, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. So you shall eat it in haste. It is Yahweh's Passover, for I will pass through the land of Egypt on that night, and will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am Yahweh. 13. Now the blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be on you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. 14. So this day shall be to you a memorial, and you shall keep it as a feast to Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an everlasting ordinance. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses, for whoever eats leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that person shall be cut off from Israel. 16. On the first day there shall be a sacred convocation, and on the 7th day there shall be a sacred convocation for you. No manner of work shall be done on them, but that which everyone must eat, that only may be prepared by you. 17. So you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for on this same day I will have brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore, you shall observe this day throughout your generations as an everlasting ordinance. 18. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. 19. For 7 days, no leaven shall be found in your houses, since whoever eats what is leavened, that same person shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is a stranger or a native of the land. 20. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your dwellings you shall eat unleavened bread. 21. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, Pick out and take lambs for yourselves according to your families, and kill the Passover lamb. 22. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning. 23. For Yahweh will pass through to strike the Egyptians, and when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, Yahweh will pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to strike you. 24. And you shall observe this thing as an ordinance for you and your sons forever. 25. It will come to pass when you come to the land which Yahweh will give you, just as he promised, that you shall keep this service. 26. And it shall be when your children say to you, What do you mean by this service? 27. That you shall say, It is the Passover sacrifice of Yahweh, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when he struck the Egyptians and delivered our households. So the people bowed their heads and worshipped. 28. Then the children of Israel went away and did so, just as Yahweh had commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. 29. And it came to pass at midnight that Yahweh struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his seat of power to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of livestock. 30. So Pharaoh rose in the night, he, all his servants, and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. 31. Then he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, Rise, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go serve Yahweh as you have said. 32. Also take your flocks and your herds as you have said, and be gone, and honor me also. 33. And the Egyptians urged the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, We shall all be dead. 34. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, having their kneading bowls bound up in their clothes on their shoulders. 35. Now the children of Israel had done according to the word of Moses, and they had asked from the Egyptians investigations of silver, investigations of gold, and clothing. 36. And Yahweh had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they granted them what they requested. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. 37. Then the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth with about 600,000 men on foot besides children. 38. A mixed multitude went up with them also, and flocks and herds, a great deal of livestock. 39. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they had brought out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were driven out of Egypt and could not wait, nor had they prepared provisions for themselves. 40. Now the sojourn of the children of Israel who lived in Egypt was 430 years. 41. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, to the very same day, it came to pass that all the hosts of Yahweh went out from the land of Egypt. 42. It is a night of solemn observance to Yahweh for bringing them out of the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh, a solemn observance for all the children of Israel throughout their generations. The timepiece of heaven has been recovered. What began as a quiet command in the night, "This new moon shall be the beginning of months for you," has emerged as the cornerstone of time, worship, and obedience. Yahweh didn't leave his people to guess. He embedded his divine calendar in the visible heavens, anchoring sacred events to the light of the full moon. From Egypt to Sinai, from Passover to Pentecost, from the wilderness to the cross, every sacred appointment was timed by the Creator's clock, not Caesar's. Now, that same heavenly rhythm calls again. This investigation has shown, the full moon was not just a light in the sky, but a beacon of restoration, a celestial testimony declaring Yahweh's time is not lost. It was only hidden beneath centuries of tradition, empire, and convenience. To align with this calendar is not legalism, it is loyalty, not burden, but breakthrough. For just as the Hebrews were tested in Egypt to leave behind Pharaoh's system of time, so too are we now being invited to leave the Gregorian shadows and step into the blazing light of the Creator's reckoning. The Exodus wasn't just a journey out of Egypt, it was a journey back to divine order. The question that remains is this: when the time comes to leave Babylon's calendar behind, will you know the way?